Once upon a time, in a small African village named Sunlight, there was a grand church at the center of the town. The church was known for its beautiful choir, led by a man named Mr. Emmanuel. He was respected in the village because of his charming voice and dedication to the church. The choir was famous, and people traveled from other villages just to hear them sing. Mr. Emmanuel had a way of bringing voices together to create music that felt like magic. But while the music filled the church with joy, something strange began to happen. One Sunday morning, people noticed that several young women in the choir looked different. They were glowing, but not in the way they usually did after singing. Their bellies had started to grow, and whispers began to fill the church. "Is it just me? Or does Blessing look like she is expecting a baby?" One woman whispered to another. Soon, everyone was talking about it. It wasn't just Blessing. 6 other choir members seemed to be in the same condition. At first, nobody thought much of it. After all, it wasn't unusual for women in the village to start families. But when someone pointed out that none of them were married, the whispers turned into rumors. One day after practice, Blessing, one of the choir members, approached Mr. Emmanuel with tears in her eyes. "I can't keep this secret anymore," she said softly. "I'm carrying your child." Mr. Emmanuel's face turned pale. He looked around to make sure no one was listening. "You must not tell anyone," he said firmly. "If people find out, it will ruin everything." But Blessing wasn't the only one with a secret. Slowly, one by one, the other women in the choir began to realize that they were all connected by the same truth. Each of them had trusted Mr. Emmanuel, and now they felt betrayed. The women decided to meet in private. They gathered at Blessing's house one evening to talk about what had happened. "He told me I was special," said one. "He promised to take care of me," said another. They soon realized they had all been told the same lies. Anger and sadness filled the room as they shared their stories. They decided that it was time to confront Mr. Emmanuel together. The following Sunday, after the church service, the 7 women stood up in front of the congregation. Blessing spoke first. "We have something to tell you," she said, her voice shaking but strong. The room fell silent. Everyone turned to look at the choir members standing at the front. "Mr. Emmanuel has wronged us," Blessing continued. "He told us lies and made promises he didn't keep." The congregation gasped. Mr. Emmanuel, who had been standing by the piano, froze. He knew there was no way to escape now. The truth was out. One by one, the women told their stories. They spoke about how Mr. Emmanuel had taken advantage of their trust and how it had affected their lives. Some cried as they spoke, while others stood tall and proud. The church elders were shocked. They had always trusted Mr. Emmanuel to lead the choir and guide the young people. "This is a serious matter," said Elder Joseph. "We cannot ignore it." The news spread quickly through the village. Some people were angry, while others were sad. Many wondered how someone they admired so much could do something so wrong. The church decided to hold a meeting to discuss what should be done. Everyone was invited to share their thoughts. Some people wanted Mr. Emmanuel to be forgiven, while others thought he should leave the village. During the meeting, Blessing stood up again. "We don't want revenge," she said. "We just want the truth to be known, and we want to make sure this never happens to anyone else." Mr. Emmanuel finally spoke. He admitted to what he had done and apologized to the women and the congregation. "I made terrible mistakes," he said. "I don't deserve your forgiveness, but I'm truly sorry." The church decided that Mr. Emmanuel could no longer lead the choir. They also agreed to support the women and their children, showing them love and kindness instead of judgment. As time passed, the village began to heal. The choir found a new leader, and the music continued to fill the church with joy. The women supported each other, creating a bond that couldn't be broken. Blessing started a group to help other young women in the village. She taught them about making good choices and standing up for themselves. Her bravery inspired many. Mr. Emmanuel left the village to start a new life elsewhere. He carried with him the weight of his mistakes and the lessons he had learned. He vowed never to repeat them. The church became a stronger, more united place. People learned the importance of honesty, trust, and forgiveness. They worked together to create a community where everyone felt safe and valued. And so, the story of the choir master and the 7 women became a lesson for the village. It reminded everyone that even in the darkest times, there is always a chance to make things right. The 7 women became symbols of courage in the village. They had faced their fears and spoken the truth. Many admired their bravery, but some villagers whispered behind their backs. "Why didn't they speak up sooner?" a few people muttered. Blessing reminded the group to stay strong. "What matters is that we stood up for ourselves," she said. The women worked together to rebuild their lives. They decided to form a choir of their own, singing songs of hope and healing. Their voices became a powerful reminder that no matter what happens, people can rise above their pain and find strength. Meanwhile, the church elders decided to launch a program to protect young women in the community. They invited speakers to talk about trust, respect, and personal boundaries. The goal was to create an environment where everyone felt safe. The choir's new leader was Sister Grace, a kind and talented woman with a gift for bringing people together. She worked hard to ensure the choir continued to shine, encouraging everyone to let their voices be heard. "Music heals the soul," she often said. One day, Blessing noticed a young girl named Amara sitting alone in the church. Amara was crying softly. "What's wrong, dear?" Blessing asked, sitting down beside her. Amara hesitated, then shared that someone had been treating her unfairly at school. Blessing comforted Amara and encouraged her to speak to her parents about what was happening. "You should never be afraid to tell the truth," she said. Amara nodded and promised to talk to her parents. This small act of kindness reminded Blessing of the importance of supporting others. Back in the village, Mr. Emmanuel's absence was felt. Some people missed his leadership, while others believed the church was better off without him. Occasionally, rumors about where he had gone would surface, but no one knew for sure. A few months later, Mr. Emmanuel sent a letter to the church. In it, he expressed deep regret for his actions and apologized once again. He also promised to dedicate his life to helping others and making amends for his mistakes. The letter sparked mixed emotions. Some villagers believed he was sincere and deserved a second chance. Others thought it was best for him to stay away. "Forgiveness doesn't mean forgetting," said Elder Joseph, "but we must pray for him to change." The 7 women continued to inspire the village with their courage. They started a support group for other women who had faced similar challenges. They shared their stories and encouraged others to speak out against wrongdoing. The support group grew quickly. Women from nearby villages came to share their experiences and seek advice. The group's meetings were filled with laughter, tears, and words of encouragement. Together, they were building a stronger community. The children of the 7 women also became part of the story. As they grew, they learned about their mother's bravery and resilience. The women taught their children important lessons about honesty, respect, and standing up for what's right. One day, a traveling preacher named Pastor Daniel visited the church. He had heard about the scandal and wanted to share a message of hope and redemption. His words touched the hearts of everyone in the congregation. Pastor Daniel's sermon was about the power of forgiveness and the importance of learning from mistakes. "We are all human," he said. "We make errors, but what matters is how we rise after we fall." After the service, Pastor Daniel spoke privately with the 7 women. He praised their courage and encouraged them to keep inspiring others. "Your story will bring light to many," he said with a smile. The women felt a renewed sense of purpose. They decided to write a book about their experiences, hoping to reach even more people with their story. The book was titled Voices of Courage and became a source of inspiration for many. As time passed, the village began to heal. The scandal became a memory, but the lessons it taught remained. The church grew stronger, and the community became more united than ever before. One day, years later, Mr. Emmanuel returned to the village. He looked older and wiser, with a humble expression on his face. He had come to seek forgiveness, not just from the church, but also from the 7 women. The women listened to Mr. Emmanuel's apology. Some were moved by his sincerity, while others felt it was too late. After a long discussion, they decided to forgive him, not for his sake, but for their own peace of mind. Mr. Emmanuel promised to dedicate his life to serving others. He joined a mission group that traveled to different villages, teaching young people about respect and responsibility. He hoped his story would prevent others from making the same mistakes. The village celebrated its growth with an annual festival. The 7 women were honored for their courage and resilience. They stood on stage, holding hands as the crowd cheered for them. During the festival, the new choir performed a song written by Sister Grace. The song, titled New Beginnings, was a celebration of healing and hope. It brought tears to the eyes of everyone who heard it. The festival became a yearly tradition, reminding the village of how far they had come. Each year, new stories of courage and kindness were shared, inspiring the next generation. Blessing often looked back on everything that had happened. She felt proud of how she and the other women had turned their pain into strength. "We are more than what happened to us," she said. "We are what we choose to become." And so, the village of Sunlight continued to shine brightly. It became a place of love, forgiveness, and unity, a place where even the darkest secrets could be turned into stories of hope and redemption.